I really like the idea of starting with some personal reflection for the entrepreneur, because ultimately, I think the sounding board function of the advisory board works better when the people around the table complement the existing entrepreneur or team. And so I think it's an opportunity to take stock first of, what you like doing, what you're good at naturally, and to think about beyond that, what would you really ideally like to have of skills or experiences that you actually don't have that would be relevant to the growth or the success of the business? And I think that becomes the area to focus on. And so beginning with reflection and understanding the specific skills or experiences you want to bring in on the advisory board, I think is most helpful way to start.
I knew that I needed, help with marketing. I needed help with just overall general business practices, structures that would benefit my work. And in conversation with Charlene, who did develop our business model, I sought her advice in terms of, what would be my next steps. And I described to her what I thought I needed. She concurred. And then we just started talking about who.
Janice St. Ange from the Vermont Flexible Capital Fund was gently prodding me, and I thought that sounded like a really good idea, and just came up with a list of folks it was sort of the dream team, who I know is really great expertise and could help, and just reached out and asked them to join me, and created an inaugural meeting where we all got together in person to get going.
We knew before we opened our first restaurant that we'd never run a restaurant or worked in a restaurant, so maybe we were in a unique space where we were starting something where we were less experienced than other entrepreneurs might be in whatever field that they're getting going with. So at the very beginning, before we opened the Skinny Pancake, the first restaurant in 2007, we went around to 4 successful restaurateurs basically in the Burlington area and asked the same set of questions, such as 90% of restaurants fail in the first year, yours didn't, and why? So before we ever started before we even started the first location, we started looking for advice and help because we were pretty afraid of what we didn't know. And then as we grew, in 2007 we opened. In 2003 we opened as a cart. 2007 we opened our first location. And we actually didn't formally form an advisory board until 2015. So it was 8 years of not having one. So over that 8-year period, we definitely sought out advice from people, and a handful of those people ended up on our 5-person advisory board that we formally got together in 2015.
Very much aware that the gap in my skill set is around the sales and marketing side. And so I was really looking for people who I knew had that expertise from different parts of the sales and distribution and marketing chain in my business. I've been fortunate, I guess, because I've been around for 6 years and had some distribution to meet a group of people over the years. So it wasn't hard for me to figure out who I wanted. What was really exciting was that they said yes. So
we made a list of the ways that we wanted to grow, and a list of the expertise that we wanted to have as we explored that growth.
In terms of group dynamics, I think a small group, relatively small group that can be informal and people feel comfortable in raising ideas and putting forward thoughts comfortably is key and is essential. And so I think I tend to think more towards a smaller size group, like 5, than a larger traditional board of directors, like 15 or 10. I think having an open conversation at the recruitment process is the key. I don't think that it's necessarily right or wrong to compensate or not to compensate. I think it really is just a conversation that needs to be had when you're recruiting someone to set the right expectations and have them consider it. I've seen boards with all volunteers. I've seen boards all compensated. I've seen even mixed. As long as people are committed to being there and able to fill that function, I think compensation is not as pivotal as some might think. I do think, having said that, that if there are expenses in getting to the meeting, I think it's nice to offset that. I think it's also just, food. Food is a great lubricator for good ideas and good input. And I think breaking bread is good team building. So I think sharing a nice meal, whether it's breakfast or dinner or whatever the meeting happens to be, is a good idea. Beyond that, I don't think there needs to be compensation, but in particular situations, it's warranted, and I'd fully support that.
We definitely felt like it was important somehow to thank them for their time and effort. So none of them are in it for the money, and I think anyone who is asked to be an advisory board knows that they're not going to come into it for the money. What we do, and we're a restaurant, so this is how we handle it. The meetings themselves, we have a catered meal as part of the meeting. So maybe everybody meets and we eat breakfast and then we have the meeting, or maybe we have the meeting and then there's dinner afterwards. So we have kind of a nice benefit out of that there's an informal social interplay part of the meeting as well. And then we technically offer food credit to each to come to the restaurant, with a gift card. And the reason I say technically is, they sometimes will joke like, well, for my lousy X $100 a food credit, here's all my help or something, just to make their point that they're there to help us and they're not there for the food credit.
I had read some articles on forming advisory boards, and some of them had talked about compensation, and I had initially thought perhaps we should do something like that. I wasn't sure how to do it, and it's not like we had a ton of money to do anything that would be really significant to any of the people I was asking. But John Ryan, who'd been a coach over time and is also involved, was pretty quick to point out, and I would agree, having talked to the advisory members after speaking with them, that they're not in it for the money. They're really in it for being part of a group of folks that they respect and also feel they can learn from, and because they're excited about your business and are interested in seeing it succeed.
All of them, in one way or another, said, when I was at your stage in my career, I asked for help and got it, and I really appreciated that, and I want to now give back and offer that same help to somebody.
People really want to give back. I think they want to give to, and they want to give back and be a part of a process, part of a business growth, and part of the success of a business. It's very appealing to people.
Any way that you can make them part of whatever it is that you're doing, I think in many ways has more value to them than cash anyway.
I think it's fulfilling when they see an entrepreneur succeed and get the benefit of their counsel. I think that's entirely fulfilling. To see a business that's perhaps tracking in one direction or maybe has a weakness, and because of your involvement, your commitment, your ideas, that you see the turnaround, you see a shift that's positive and that really helps the business to live up to its potential, is extremely fulfilling. And I think that's what keeps advisors coming back and trying to be the best that they can be for that business.
It's a desire to give back for the help that they got whenever they needed it. And also, as a couple of them have quipped, hey, this is fun for us. There's no risk. So I think some people enjoy being able to be part of something. People that have had their butts on the line, running a business, to be able to participate in the ideation of another business without actually, having their hide on the line is appealing.
I think I am more on the monthly side of things, although I also can be persuaded that quarterly is appropriate. Where I come down is that in the beginning, I think meeting simply quarterly is hard to develop that rhythm, that commitment, that bonding. And so I would typically advise starting with monthly meetings till you get that rhythm and till you get that feeling like everyone's oriented and everyone understands each other enough to feel comfortable to ask the tough questions. Once that's established, and if the business isn't going through a particular challenge or growth, maybe you do pull back from monthly meetings. But I think to start, I would err on the more frequent side of things. What you're really looking for is that authentic exchange of ideas, and what they say 80% of communications in your body language. So if I had a choice, I would choose to meet in person. I think that's qualitatively better for that reason. And I think the bonds that get established in person are stronger. But that doesn't mean that it always has to be in person. I think that I've seen other boards be successful where there's a mixture of in-person meetings and then at times by Skype or some other method.
The first thing that I wanted to do is to meet in person, because I've been on various boards, and I think having everybody face to face to get started is hugely important. So you form those relationships, you come together as a group and feel like a group and act like a group, so it was an in-person meeting, and we agreed to meet quarterly after that.